Have you ever wondered why a man who runs from commitment suddenly stops running? Why a man who seemed allergic to the word forever starts imagining forever with her? And not just any woman, but a woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't try to convince. She simply is. She radiates something different, something magnetic, something deeply feminine, something his wounds can't resist. Today, we're going to uncover 8 feminine energy secrets that make even an avoidant man, the kind who flinches at vulnerability, whisper the words, "I do." Not because he was persuaded, but because something in her energy made him feel safe and awakened. She holds her emotional gravity. Avoidant men are drawn to women who don't float away at the first sign of discomfort. You see, an avoidant fears closeness because deep down he fears losing himself in it. But when he meets a woman who isn't afraid of her own emotions, who doesn't crumble when he distances, something profound happens. She becomes a mirror, not of his chaos, but of her calm. She doesn't react to his withdrawal with panic. She responds with presence. She doesn't chase him down the hallway of avoidance. She stands firmly in her own center, knowing that her love is not an emergency. And in that silence, he hears something louder than any words. "I am not afraid of your fears." She offers emotional depth, not drama. Most people confuse intensity with connection, but a woman in her feminine doesn't confuse chaos for chemistry. She doesn't punish. She doesn't play games. She doesn't need to create emotional storms to feel close. Instead, she invites him into still waters, deep, quiet, unfathomable, where connection feels like coming home, not like surviving a battlefield. And for the avoidant man, whose nervous system is trained to flinch at love, this depth without drama is a kind of medicine. It soothes his fear of being engulfed by never demanding that he drown. She leads with curiosity, not control. Here's a truth avoidant men instinctively pick up on. The woman who needs to know everything often fears losing control. She wants answers, timelines, and guarantees. But he reads that as pressure, and pressure makes him disappear. But a woman in her feminine essence, she's curious, not controlling. She doesn't interrogate, she inquires. She doesn't panic when things are undefined. She explores. And that difference between trying to control him and trying to understand him is the difference between being perceived as a captor or as a soulmate. She owns her silence. Avoidant men don't just fear emotions, they fear the responsibility of disappointing someone. So they retreat into silence, ghost, pull away, go cold. And most women, they fill that space with noise, texts, questions, explanations, pleas. But the woman who understands her feminine power, she doesn't chase the void. She lets the silence speak for her because she knows when she falls quiet, with dignity, not anger, he begins to feel the echo of her absence, not as a punishment, but as a presence that's no longer freely given. That's when he realizes the silence is louder than any speech. She radiates, she doesn't rescue. This is where many women lose him. They try to fix him, heal him, help him become a better man. But the avoidant doesn't need a therapist in a lover's body. He doesn't want to be parented. He wants to rise on his own. So when a woman tries to save him, he feels ashamed, unworthy, trapped. But the woman in her feminine, she doesn't rescue. She radiates. She inspires him without trying to. Because her life is full, her energy is magnetic, and her love is not dependent on his transformation. She becomes not his lifeline, but his lighthouse. She dances with mystery. The avoidant man is terrified of being known too quickly because being known feels like being vulnerable, and vulnerability to him feels like danger. So what does the feminine do? She leaves room for mystery. She doesn't overshare. She doesn't perform her pain to build false closeness. Instead, she lets him discover her like a novel, page by page, never rushed, never revealed all at once. This slow unfolding disarms him because he's not being forced into closeness, he's being invited. She holds her boundaries without bitterness. Avoidant men often test limits, not maliciously, but because they're afraid to believe in love's consistency. They push, withdraw, return, repeat. But the woman in her feminine knows her boundaries, and more importantly, she knows how to enforce them with softness, not from anger, but from self-respect. She says, "I love being with you, but I won't stay in confusion. I care about you, but I won't wait indefinitely. I see your fear, but I won't shrink to comfort it." Her boundaries don't punish, they clarify, and that clarity becomes his compass. She trusts the timing of her own life above all else. The woman who inspires an "I do" from an avoidant man is the one who isn't waiting for it. She isn't putting her life on pause. She's not asking, "When will he choose me?" She's choosing herself every day. She doesn't confuse patience with passivity. She moves forward not because she's given up on him, but because she has not given up on herself. She understands this sacred truth. When you live a full, radiant, integrated life, people either rise to meet you or fall away on their own. And when an avoidant man feels that you are moving forward with or without him, that's when he faces the one fear deeper than intimacy, losing a woman he could never replace. The secret isn't in becoming what he wants. It's in becoming who you truly are. Because the woman who is fully herself, who loves without losing herself, who invites without chasing, who feels without drowning, she becomes the rarest thing he's ever encountered. She doesn't shrink to fit his wounds, nor does she contort to soothe his fears. She stands rooted in her essence, not hard, not guarded, but soft with boundaries, fierce with self-respect, alive with presence. She doesn't barter her worth for his affection. She doesn't try to win him, because she already knows she is enough. And in that knowing, she becomes unforgettable. She doesn't need to convince a man to say, "I do." She simply lives in a way that makes him feel, deep in the marrow of his resistance, that he would be a fool not to choose her. And when that realization comes, it isn't coerced, it isn't manipulated, it isn't begged for, it's felt, it's earned. It emerges from the slow alchemy of presence, truth, and self-love, and when it does, it doesn't fade, it lasts. Because it was never about persuasion, it was about resonance.